Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Welcome, and good morning. We're going to continue our coverage of the 113th annual NAACP conventions. We wrapped up yesterday. I'm back in town, back here, making sure that I'm delivering. We live this morning. So I'm really honored to be here. I want to introduce you to a couple of my new friends that I made. Actually, I'm going to talk about one of them in particular today, Miss Tiffany Fisher. She is the truth from out west, because, they call us people in the central part of the city over the mountain. So she's out in I believe it's Allegheny County, holding it down and making sure, Allegheny County. I'm going to read from Allegheny Magazine's 25 Most Fascinating People of 2021. She has done an amazing job out there, and I'm going to talk a little bit about her, talk to you about some more about the stuff that I learned. When I tell you, baby, I'm tired. Because not only did we get an opportunity to have a really great opportunity, we had a great opportunity to learn, to get information, to find out about what else is happening. I also got an opportunity to talk to people who are in the struggle, who are out there on the ground doing work, like Tiffany, like Nicole Kess, Nashana Kess, like Nicole Chang, like Colby Little. Like it was amazing just to be there with people who are committed to the struggle, committed to making sure that we improve the quality of life for the people we serve. Woo! All right, let me get to my show notes so I can go ahead and go wild on this. Forget show notes. Let's talk about helping people, because that, again, one of the great things that came of the NAACP convention was the opportunity to really examine how we invest in people and understanding what their needs are. So we do that here locally on a regular basis with our partnership with the organization called Breadcoin. Breadcoin is an amazing organization because it provides an opportunity for people to have their issues or food insecurity needs addressed and still maintaining their dignity. If you make a donation to Breadcoin, what will happen is that they'll take these coins right here and they'll put value toward them. And as individuals go to participating restaurants and caterers, they will be able to purchase food and eat and address nutrition issues, and at the same time maintain their dignity. I love it when we not only do the right things, but we do the right things the right way. So I am exceptionally happy, incredibly proud of our relationship with Breadcoin. And I'm grateful that we are able to keep it going and keep it started. We still have our election coverage. Congratulations to the candidates who have pulled off victories in their primaries. Well, except for one of them. I'm a little troubled by the fact that that ticket won, but we'll be talking about that in greater detail later. So for the winners of the gubernatorial primary race, Dan Cox and Wes Moore, if you look at their combined vote totals, both of the winners of the primary, the combined vote totals for both of the winners is less than 300,000 votes. Less than 300,000, which means that out of 4 million registered or eligible voters in Maryland, less than 10% of them jumped on the bandwagon to cast their vote, which means that less than 10%, whichever one of these tickets win, that means that the first step for their win is because of only 300,000 people. And it wasn't like they happened to win the 300,000 votes between them, and there were so many more votes with so many more candidates. There were a lot of candidates, but the total vote, the vote totals don't even come anywhere near even a third of the potential electorate. That is a problem. Because this is how minority rule happens. And I'm not talking about racial or ethnic minorities. I'm talking about how the small number of crazy folk, how those people are able to run elections and ruin our democracy, ruin our republic, because they get out there and do it. They get out there and vote. Yeah. Some of us may have had problems voting. And I am grateful for those who, with the problems, that they persevered and got it done. But we do need to do better. And I add myself among that number. We need to do better. We need to have a greater call. We need to be out in the streets. We need to do more to get out the vote. We need to do more to ensure that we are voting, and not just voting. Because I understand the frustration that we have with voting, because we vote and nothing happens. We voted for Joe Biden and nothing is happening. Or the gains that we are getting are so incremental, they feel like it's nothing to begin with. And so we need to do more. Good morning, Quandra. Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing, because we're not talking today. You and I have it on tomorrow. So I don't even know what we're going to talk about, girl, because I got stuff to say now, Quandra. So I don't even know. That's if you want me, because I know you got some other guests, and I apologize just inserting myself into your world. But anyway, I apologize. You got me all off topic. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be motivated. But kind of going back to the issue around voting and how we show up. Midterms are important. If you see what's going on now, we'll talk about the January 6th stuff and some other stuff later, because I really want to focus today on cleaning up the week. If you understand that voting is not enough, we need to volunteer, we need to testify, we need to contribute, we need to hold fundraisers, we need to do all of these things, because that's what they're doing. They're not just voting. They are making sure that after they vote, that they show up and their elected officials know what comes with that vote. A lot of us, we send in our vote and hope that they should understand based on our vote what that we want them to do. That's not even reasonable. It doesn't make any sense. We need to make sure we stay in their ears on a regular basis. And is it hard? Abso-fucking-lutely it is. It is. Should you have to do it? No, you should not. Your elected officials should understand their roles and their obligations enough that they do what they're supposed to do. But guess what? That's not the world we live in. They need external support to maintain their accountability. Because, I mean, hell, it's easy to get caught up in it. How many of us at work when we have worked at places that were not necessarily at our level, how many of us have found our work ethic slipping just a little bit? Just a little bit. And you have a situation where these people are around some of the most corrupt individuals in the system. Your elected official will need your assistance to maintain their strength. Because it's easy to get caught up in that world and be like, oh, we need to do this. We need to do that. We need them to know what we need. It needs to be our word, us standing up there saying, hey, what are you doing? Why are you voting for that? And guess what? We're going to raise a stink, because if they know, they are afraid of consequences right now. I appreciate your co-signing, Quandra. That's beautiful. But they are dealing with the intimidation right now. I remember one of the GOP representatives immediately after January 6th, like that night and the next day, there were many Republicans were getting together on Capitol Hill and talking. And one of the things that came out of that conversation, kind of leaked because nobody wants to talk directly. One of the things that came out of the conversation is that many of the Republicans wanted to stand up and say, this is some bullshit, this is wrong, but they were legitimately concerned for the safety of their families. Because they know, and this is one of the challenges and one of the things about chickens and coming home to roost. See, a lot of us ain't never grow up on a farm, so we don't understand what that whole chickens coming home to roost thing. We ain't never seen that. But chickens, they know where they came from. They remember the support they received. So when you create crazy chickens to go out and terrorize the Democrats, well, once they finish, they come back home to roost. This is where they settle. This is where they feel comfortable. And it's with you. You dialed them up. The Republican Party dialed these people up. They got them all frustrated and excited. They set them upon the world and watched the destruction being wrought. And now they've come home to settle. And it's not like they leave the destructive capacity or their inclinations. They leave it out in the world. No, they bring it back with them. And what has happened, and I'll talk a little bit. I know I'm going to go back to the NAACP conference. But one of the things that is definitely concerning to me right now is the fact that we have elected, or Dan Cox won the primary. Dan Cox is an election denier that's supported by Donald Trump. Kelly Schultz, while I don't agree with her on policy across the board, she is a reasonable person. She is a person who understands the need for compromise, who not just compromise for compromise's sake, but understands the need of working with other people to advance an agenda. Understanding that you won't be able to get all that you want, but we at least need to start with a shared statement of facts so that we can move on for the betterment of Marylanders and the people that we serve. From what I've seen, that is not Mr. Cox's perspective. And I am interested in having him come on any of the shows of the BlackUSA.news network and make his case to our voters, or make his case to our constituency. And again, I hope I am wrong. I hope that the reporting that I am hearing about him is over exaggerated or he was misquoted. I do not believe so, but I am hopeful. Because if we do not exist in a shared statement of facts or a shared reality, then how do we even move forward? It's like talking to a little kid when they said, well, I won't do it. Yeah, we can't do anything until I get a unicorn. Well, that's going to be a problem because unicorns don't exist. I can get you a goat and painted rainbow colors, but that is still not what you're looking for. And so as we navigate and move through, we need to understand that it's not just voting is necessary, but it's not just voting anymore. We need to be active. We need to go out and we need to kick some ass, not necessarily in the physical sense, but we need to get out there and make sure that our voices are heard and they understand what it means. We need to make sure that we hold them accountable. And will it be rough? Yes, but we need to make that investment so that we can push our community to where it needs to be, because otherwise they have been clear that they are going to be more than happy to roll back. Conservatives are going to roll back the rights and protections that we all benefit from. I appreciate Congress for jumping in and trying to solidify same-sex marriage rights and some of the other rights that have been threatened by the court. You should have done that shit for Roe v. Wade, but okay. Sure, you missed that opportunity, so I am proud that you are taking this one. But it's not enough. They need our help. They need our support. They need our votes. They need our money. And we need to step up to the table and make this stuff happen. All right, what else do I want to share with y'all before we get into it a little bit? Please, absolutely. Please make sure that you go visit Darker Than Blue Grill on 413 North Charles Street. They are an amazing organization. Not just because their food is great, because it is, the Cowboy prime rib. Amen. But not just because of that, but also because they're a good Black-owned business that engages our community and really supports community-based organizations and community projects and what we try to do to support the Black communities that we serve, or the communities that we serve in general. So, I appreciate the opportunity to big up them because they have taken the opportunity to support us in the community. All right, so NAACP, what happened was. So I've been sending you all in the show, been showing you all clips of what's been going on, kind of the labor movement and the like. Some of the stuff that had happened with labor. Next week, I'm trying to get somebody in to talk about a historic moment that was at the NAACP conference. I'll air some of that later, just in separate footages. The Hip Hop Alliance is a nonprofit organization that educates and advocates entertainers in the hip hop genre. It was started about 10, 15 years ago by Chuck D, Curtis Blow, like a lot of the icons of hip hop. They pulled it together. Right now, the chairman is KRS-One, and they are doing amazing work. But what was historic about what they did is that they signed an agreement, a memorandum of understanding with one of the largest unions that represents creatives and performing artists. So what they've done is, in this partnership, again, working together, they have solidified a platform to ensure that artists don't get exploited anymore. Like TLC and New Edition, Prince, and these types of art. And actually, before he died, Prince was part of bringing this together. There's so many icons and so many people that we don't know that behind the stage who really made this happen. This is an example of what I'm talking about us working together. Because the hip hop community, the Hip Hop Alliance could have kept doing their own thing, fighting with the unions and everybody struggling for resources and members, but they didn't. What they did is they said, we need to work together, because that's what the other side is. The lawyers, the lawyers, the executives, the bankers, the financiers, they're already working together. They all go to the same country clubs. They went to the same schools. They are coming at this as an organized front. And each individual artist is trying to fight that. It doesn't work. And so the Hip Hop Alliance and the union, they came together, and again, we're going to go into greater detail about that later, but they came together to create a platform and agreement so that everybody could move forward. Everybody could be better. And it was amazing to watch. What else? Oh, some stuff I learned. Let me tell you about some of the stuff I learned. One of the things that I found was disturbing. And I remember when I was younger, we used to talk, when I found out about tipping, when, somebody does something and you give them blah, blah, blah. Most of the time with waiters, hotel staff and stuff like that. And so when I found out about tipping, I thought it was weird, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Nobody comes to my job and gives me extra money because I did a good job. Why would I do it? And so it took me a while, and big ups to Lynn Artepe, my ex-wife. She used to be a bartender and a waitress. And when we were first dating, and again, I don't understand why she kept dating me after this in retrospect, but I appreciate it. We were young. One of the things I was like, we were getting ready to leave, and I was like, and I hadn't left a tip. She's like, why didn't you leave a tip? I was like, why am I leaving a tip? Like, they work here. Like, this is their job. Why would I give them money for doing their job? And she was like, what? And she explained to me that the people who work there, they don't even make minimum wage. And that the tips was designed to compensate them up to a point where they have enough money to live. When I tell you, I was so embarrassed and hurt. Like, I wanted to go back to everybody who would ever serve me and give them more money, because I really just didn't understand. And nobody had been able to nobody had taken the time to sit down and explain to me the problems with the context of not tipping, or the history of it. And I was, not even the history, but the practical application. And I was mortified. And so I try to tip as well as I can now, because I understand. But the NAACP convention brought it to a whole different perspective for me. So the funny part is that tipping wasn't even part of the United States for the longest kind of time. The United States, that was a custom that came from Europe. So we don't know whether it's Europeans coming to America or American travelers going to Europe. And it was normally the people with fancy money. So they would go and see all their other fancy friends kicking it with, not kicking it, but as they received significantly good service, they would give them a little extra. And so this was a sign of the highfalutin eliteness. Like, you had enough money because they got paid, and you could give them extra because you appreciated the service. And so when the practice came back to America, people were like, oh, nah. It's because they saw it as an assault on poor people. It's basically like putting poor people on blast. It's like, yo, poor people barely can afford the food that they get in the restaurant. So now you want to make them look all busted because they can't give extra money. And so for a while, watch this. Because I want to make sure I get this fact right. For a while, it was outlawed. Tipping was outlawed in America. And there was an entire anti-tipping movement in the 1860s, and it spread to Europe. That's why in Europe, they don't tip anymore. Before, they did it as part of their aristocracy type shit. And now they don't do it because the anti-tipping thing, because people were like, that don't even, again, the same way I was. It don't make sense to give people the money at their work if you're already paying them. That doesn't make sense. But guess what happened in America now? I'm going to give you an opportunity to reflect and think, I wonder why this thing that people were against at first all of a sudden became popular. And since the 1860s has changed from an anti-tipping thing to now the anchor point of the hospitality industry. I wonder why. Did you guess slavery and racism? Oh, ding, 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 ding. You are the winner. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is why tipping took hold in the United States. After Reconstruction, you notice that 1860s was when the whole tipping thing were like, oh, no, we don't want to do that in Europe and that movement. But in America, in the South, it was like, no, we don't want to do that. Well, wait. We got a whole lot of free Negroes, and a lot of them are going to do sharecropping. So we're going to be able to keep our money game up there because sharecropping is damn near like tipping. So they had that on lock. But then they said there's some other ones. We ain't trying to have them get no real job. So let's get them the menial jobs. But we don't want to pay no niggers real money for it because that's disrespectful to good white people who have those jobs. How you going to pay a good white person and pay a Negro the same wage? Nope, we got to find a way to pay the Negroes less. Well, then it was like, well, wait a minute. If we do that, then they really may not take the job because it literally just doesn't make sense. So they say, what about this tipping thing? Let's tip the niggers. Let's make it just like it would be if the neo-slavery. Let's just make sure that they have to be good in order to even make the minimum amount. And guess what? Then we'll take some of that because it's pimping. So tipping went away in Europe because they understood the inhumanity of this system. It flourished in America because the exploitation of workers is a necessary part of the American experience. The American system of justice does not work. The American economy does not work without active exploitation. If you take a look at the challenges that we're having in the economy right now, some of it is because customers are tired of being fucking exploited. Some of it is because workers are tired of being fucking exploited. The only people who are not tired in our economic system are the people who are never tired of raking in money from exploiting workers and customers. And the problem that an overall economy is facing right now is the tension between those two forces. The tensions between the people who want to hoard money, because that's what it is at a certain point. The same way that we laugh at these people in these trailers or in these houses that have 58 cats and decomposing bodies and magazines from the 1970s. As fun as much concern as we have for them, and as much as social disdain we have for that type of lifestyle, there is nothing different than having 7 yachts. Remember they were talking about Betsy DeVos. One of her 7 yachts, she was concerned somebody had vandalized it. It was in Ohio. Ohio is landlocked. You had to drive your boat to the lakes in Ohio so that you can flex and flaunt around a lake there. That is hoarding, in as much as a magazine from 1975 or the seventh chair that looks like this that you have. Why do you need it? Why? Because there are holes in your heart, holes in your soul that need to be filled with all of the stuff. And so the exploitation of workers, the exploitation of the desire to exploit economic resources from Blacks permeated our entire economic system and resulted in this tipping system, which is god awful. Real talk. They say the majority, many of the, I'm sorry, because I don't want to misstate or misquote them. So tipping, the way that the tipping works today, it started with the New Deal era. There's only 7 states right now that mandate that all workers, regardless of tips, must be paid a full state minimum wage before tips. Because remember, tips is supposed to be the extra. Remember, that's how it all started. It was the extra. You do a really great job, we'll give you more money. But now it's not extra. It is how restaurateurs make money. And so that's it. It is amazing. The Economic Policy Institute, a nonprofit think tank, says that the poverty rate among restaurant workers is significantly lower in states where restaurants are required to pay the minimum wage as a base salary. Check this out. That in states where they have to pay a minimum wage, the poverty rate among those workers are 7% versus 18%. Again, the numbers do not lie. The numbers are saying that when we treat people and give them the resources, they don't have to live in poverty. How is it that we are comfortable with this? How is it that we are comfortable with individuals having to scrape by, step and fetch it, shuck and jive, just so that they can make a minimum wage? You need to take, and this is also this feeling of power that many customers have, because they can abuse workers because you need my money. They say I can't remember, because I had heard something that it's something about where the word tip came from. It was a urban legend, but I wanted to share, but I can't remember it now. But what you realize is that this is anchored in exploitation. How racism is, and actually, I showed you all the clip yesterday. Check out yesterday's show. Hopefully, I'll add it in. You know what? I may just shoot that out separately. The president of the NAACP, he talked about how the ideals of racism are anchored in the exploitation of labor. He was very clear that when the Irish, because if you weren't a white Protestant male in the United States in its early foundations, nobody really cared about you. Because remember, for them, it was all national. It was all national. It was like, you're European, you're English, or you French, or you, like, all of that. That's how they had discriminated against each other for centuries. And so they come to America and they start realizing, like, well, once people get here, that whole motherland country, fatherland, that doesn't really play out well in the United States. So, what can we do? Oh, the Irish, you Irish are god awful. You can't participate in this. No Irish allowed. That didn't take too long. Then the Italians, when the Italians first came to America, especially through New York, they were the trash. No Italians, nobody wanted them there. One of the things that changed that, interestingly, is the revised history of Christopher Columbus. So once they found that this story was written because the guy, I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it. The story about Christopher Columbus was written because it just sounded better than what actually happened. So when Italians got to the United States and they were being shitted upon, they said, well, if it wasn't for us, y'all wouldn't even have a country, because there was no internet back then. So they had this book that talked about how incredible Christopher Columbus was and how blah, blah, blah. And guess what? That actually changed how a lot of people in America addressed Italian people. It made them part of the fabric of the United States, part of the American experience. And so the reality was the Irish and the Italians, the problem wasn't their nationality. The reason that they didn't get caught up into the rest of this exploitation as a group is because you can't pick them out after a generation or so. Once they marry in, and everybody starts to look the same. But not with those Japs, not with those Spics, and not with those niggers. You can always tell who they are. And so this idea of having a permanent underclass, because if you look at European societies, there is a permanent underclass. If you are, a textile worker, then it is likely that the rest of your life will be spent as a textile worker, and it's likely that your kids' lives will be spent as textile workers. Social mobility and economic mobility is not very prevalent there. But remember, that was the promise of America. But in order for people to see that promise, there at least has to be one group of people that cannot receive that promise. Because if you make it even for everybody, people will start recognizing the inherent unfairness in the system. They will start recognizing that all of this shit is a setup to keep them from being successful. But if you can show them a permanent underclass, it gives them somebody against which they don't have to worry about coming in lower than. I don't necessarily mind because, I don't mind having lower wages because at least I don't have to do that shit work that those minorities do. How many people, we talk about not having jobs, but I'll see if I can bring that too. There is a story that one of the, they tried to do this and they started paying white boys for summer work to go and work in these fields over the summer because they really were looking for that type of work. But the work is brutal. The work is brutal, and they could not retain students in the programs. They didn't want to be in the program because the work was too hard. But that's what we think Mexicans and Blacks should be doing. To reach the commercial production, it is literally backbreaking. But this is why you need a permanent underclass. And what they have decided to do in the United States is to make people of color the permanent underclass. And the cool part about what's happening right now is that people of color are saying, fuck you, no, we're not. People of color are voting, are volunteering, are contributing, are working, are speaking truth to power, are saying that you will not push us. You will not have us in the background. You will not exploit our labor. We will stand. We also got an opportunity to see awards presented to, I can't remember the brother's name, who started the Amazon Union in New York. Big ups to them. We got an opportunity to see how during the pandemic, the unions were really able to show the world that the CEOs were not as important as the environmental service worker, as the nurse, as the GNA and the CNA, who have active engagement with the patients. Because a lot of times, by the time they was so backed up, by the time doctors could get to you, you would have been dead if it wasn't for that nurse. If it wasn't for that orderly, if it wasn't for that phlebotomist, if it wasn't for that lab tech, you would have been dead during the coronavirus pandemic. The people who work in labor, I'd be damned if a CEO came down to a room and to treat a patient. I've not heard one of those stories where the board of directors comes in and rolls up their sleeves and comes and volunteers in the hospital. Now, and let me take that back. I have one of the people I volunteer on a board with did talk about how some of the management level came in, but not the board members. We started recognizing that it is the GNA who's the geriatric nursing assistant who is going to make sure that your loved one has the resources they need. It is the med tech who made sure that all of the materials and all of the tools and instruments that they needed were disease-free before they used them again. It was the environmental service worker who was in there literally putting their lives on the line to disinfect and get rid of COVID. When they were in these spaces where they knew COVID existed, they were treating people and they would walk in with disinfectant and having to use the same mask over again, literally putting their lives on the risk, in the line of fire, to ensure that our loved ones and us, when we went to the hospitals, we would not have that extra, or it would reduce the likelihood that we would come in contact with this plague. Wasn't a CEO. Was not a banker, was not the CFO, was not the financier, was not the procurement. Well, let me take that back. The procurement departments, big up to them. Big up the procurement departments because of the work of the procurement departments, and procurement are the people who buy stuff for the companies. They were able to get PPE. You had people in procurement who were grinding it out, calling everybody and trying to find out where resources were so that they could continue to save lives. Hey, Michael, what's going on? But this is what we got an opportunity, and what we got an opportunity to find out during the pandemic. I remember there was one New York hospital where the CEO, as the city was going into lockdown, nobody was out. Y'all remember the images of New York as a ghost town? The CEO and the board chair, they flew down to their homes and their vacation homes in Florida and were working remotely. They flew down to their vacation homes in the middle of a plague while their frontline workers were doing double duty of 10, 12-hour shifts. Think about that. You work a 12-hour shift and then have to do overtime. That's another day. That's a whole day. While they are living that world, using used PPE or recycling PPE, you fly down to your vacation home and work remotely. The exploitation of workers is necessary for the American capitalist system. As workers, as those of us who are entrepreneurs, here's another piece. As you start looking at your budgets, recognize that if you're not budgeting for at least $20 an hour, you are going to end up being part of the problem. That's real. It's easy to go and tell Johns Hopkins and the federal government and Pepsi and Coca-Cola and Con Edison what they should do and how they should spend their money, and McDonald's and the Cheesecake Factory, how they need to raise minimum wages. But if you hustling, if you got a side hustle or you're starting a company, if you are not paying $20 an hour, $21 an hour, you are also part of the problem. What the good book say? It said you are talking about the splinter in someone else's eye when you have not taken the plank out of your own. It is very easy to look at others and tell them what they are not doing. Start with you first. Start with you first. So I want to tell you, and the cool part is we're going to have an ongoing segment here about my new friends, because I have new friends now. I have new NAACP friends that are amazing. And one of my new friends is Tiffany Fisher. She is the Allegheny County NAACP president. So Allegheny County, for those of you all who may not be familiar with Maryland's geography, it is on the western side of Maryland. It's like if you're leaving Maryland or the central part of Maryland and heading to, say, West Virginia, you would normally go through the Western Maryland, and Allegheny County is one of the places that you would go through. Tiffany is amazing. Like, I love her rapacious wit. And again, I just met her this week, and I had an opportunity to just see her engage the level of integrity and ability. Like, she comes to the table with facts. She be spitting it. So let me tell you a little bit about her. They wrote this article about her. She didn't even know that I'm doing this. But one of the things that I think needs to happen more frequently is when we meet good people, we need to celebrate them when we can. And let me take a moment before I get back to Tiffany to really say something. I am the current treasurer of the Baltimore City branch of the NAACP. If I'm going to be honest, it is not a job that I ever wanted. I was happy being the Economic Development Committee chair. I was happy being the assistant treasurer. The reason that I am treasurer of the Baltimore City branch of the NAACP is that an amazing man named Boyer Freeman died of COVID. Dr. Freeman was not just a good man, not just a good treasurer, not just a good friend. He was a good servant. He and I had developed plans on how we were going to impact the community throughout the entire NAACP network, our entire NAACP community, and really bringing a different set of skills, a different set of organization to the work that we do that changes so many lives. This having to, and he was really good at being treasurer on top of everything else. Having to try to step into his shoes has been difficult. One, because I am not the man that Dr. Freeman was. His level of organization and understanding is just supersedes mine. And so I find myself struggling to wear his shoes and doing a poor job of it. But I also recognize that this convention, while it was very impactful and meaningful for me, it would have been even better to be able to get his perspective and to get his historical understanding, his knowledge about the intricacies and his history in the work and his spiritual anchor to really help me also understand and reframe the context of what I was learning. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that because as a society, we have fucked up on COVID to the extent where I've lost a friend. I've lost family members. And so as we navigate through the spaces of those who are left, I have made it a commitment of mine to give people what is our good friend, the cannabis councilman, Martin Mitchell, whose show comes on Sunday mornings at 9. People Over Politics. One of the things I love that he says to everybody is that we need to give people their flowers now. I know that's not his original creation, but this is why it's important, because one of the few places of solace that I have in Dr. Freeman's passing is that I let him know how important he was to me and to the movement before he passed. That is my anchor point in this. And I want to make sure that as I meet these new people, we're going to talk about Fred Chavis later. There's so many amazing fucking people I met, and I just want to share them with you. So let me tell you a little. Hopefully I can get Tiffany on the show sometime soon. I mean, she's way busy, but I want to talk to her about what the work she's doing in there. So we talks about Tiffany. She grew up in Allegheny County. And her family goes back 5 generations in Western Maryland. Western Maryland is not known for the most racially diverse or the most racially progressive place in Maryland. So the fact that her family goes back 5 generations gives you an opportunity just to see the context in which she has grown. To see. Tiffany followed, her mother was an active part of the NAACP in Allegheny County. And Tiffany joined the NAACP Youth Council because she understood through her family the need for service. She wasn't always an active member of the NAACP, but she always focused in on supporting the activities. Because, every once in a while with some of our organizations, the politics get a little outrageous. We start feeling like, oh, wait, what's happening? No, she realized that no matter what the politics, the mission was still necessary. She had read an article about a man who was profiled by police. And part of it was during the Black Lives, or just before the Black Lives Matter piece really popped off. And she shared with us about how seeing those types of things and hearing that, she realized that this was part of what was happening. Like, she needed to do more. So she decided to get out and get active. And she recognized the need for the movement, especially in her area, to have the leadership skills that people had invested for years. Her family and the community and these programs had invested in her for years to help her develop these leadership skills, these analytical skills, and she decided to put them to the test and help the people. She, as the VP of the NAACP at the time, before she became president, she organized the Freedom Fund dinner, and she spoke out to protect the Carver School Center. She started an initiative to restore the Pinewood Avenue playground and worked with Friends of Woodlawn to maintain Black cemeteries. That's what she did as vice president. In 2020, she took the lead role in organizing the Safe Not Silent March to protest the tragic death of George Floyd, and the march started at the Emmanuel Episcopal Church and ended it with a rally at City Hall, which was the largest protest in Cumberland history. Literally, we talking about a history maker. She brought the wherewithal of the community directly to the points of power in Allegheny County and Cumberland and saying that this is enough. She's done Juneteenth projects. And again, this is not a location that is really open and excited about issues around race and racial equity and things like that. One of the things that she talked about that really got my attention was the conversation about what the work that they've done around the lynching project. She also is a member of the Allegheny County Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And in that role, she has helped them develop this, a tour. And the tour start of the lynching of a Black man. And a lot of times we think about like, oh, this is the tree or this is the place that he was hung from. But this tour starts from his house, where they got him, how long it took. And you, instead of just seeing that image or seeing this place representative, as you go through the tour, as you go through and experience how long that took, it changes the entire dynamic. Because when you realize that it wasn't just the hanging, that was the culminating event, but it was the beatings, it was the torture up until that point. And for me, one of the biggest torture pieces is to not have any control and not know what's going to happen. You are handcuffed or you are tied up. You are literally at the mercy of people who clearly don't care about your life, and you don't know when it's going to happen. Hell, you don't even know if it's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to end up as one of those lucky Black people who just ended up beaten up and in the hospital for a few weeks, or if you're going to end up with your insides on the outside before they hang you. To just have your life literally in someone else's hands and to know that they hate you, and at a certain point, wondering if you will beg them for your death. To sit down and to realize that in the state of Maryland, less than an hour and a half from where I live, this happened. This happened to people who, I don't even say look like me. This happened to people who were me. They were taken from their houses with all of the fear and not knowing if anybody would even ever know what happened to you. If your family would even find your body. No opportunity. Like some of the people, some of the people in some of these mass shootings had the opportunity just to call their family member and said, I miss you, goodbye. You didn't have the opportunity to do that. The humiliation of it all. That is one of the things that she is bringing to Allegheny County in this lynching memorial and this tour. And this is not important so that you could just feel bad about it. You know, that's not the goal. It's like, oh, we want everybody just to feel bad because this happened to anybody. No, this is an educational opportunity, because as you understand what has happened, not just from the academic perspective, but when it becomes a human experience, you can take that human experience and that you can use it to make policy now. The conversation about reparations, the conversations about undoing some of the damage take on a different flavor when it's not just, oh, he died. Oh, he was hanging from a tree. Oh, he was hanging from a light post. When you think of the torture and the lives of the impact of the families afterwards, what are you talking about? These are some of the most heinous atrocities that have ever been committed against Black folk. And there's a Black woman named Tiffany Fisher who was out in Allegheny County making sure that that truth gets known, making sure that she is telling the truth to power. And don't get it twisted. I talked to her this week. She don't take bullshit from nobody. She is not going to go quietly into the night. She is not going to kowtow for the feelings of the white superstructure. She is telling truth to power, and she is making sure that they feel uncomfortable, because through that agitation, they can become better. Through that agitation, we can destroy some of the lies that have been told, some of the opportunities to raise the level of our community by first just realizing that the situations we are in have been part of an organized effort using things like lynching to keep us in control. And it's over. There are too many of us out here now that's just like, bring it. What do they say? I would much rather die on my feet than to live on my knees. And that, I think, embodies Tiffany Fisher. And I am so exceptionally grateful to have had the opportunity to not just meet her, but I'm making the commitment that we are going to continue to work with her and her working with us to change the nature and the things that are happening in the Black community. I am so exceptionally grateful for that opportunity. And we're going to keep it pushing. We're going to keep calling out the injustice, and we're going to keep celebrating the justice warriors every day, all day, however the fuck we can. Because if we do not do that, if we don't tell the story, like literally that's what Black USA News is here for. Right, Quandra? If we are not here to tell the truth to power, then what the fuck is the point? You think powerful people are going to hold themselves accountable? We already talked about their entire modus is to exploit the worker and exploit the customer. We are the worker, we are the customer, and we have to say no. All right. This is, I gotta be honest, I am tired. I am so tired because we did so much work and got to know each other and really put together a plan to transform our community. And I am so excited to get it started. We will be back Monday. Hopefully, I got to check with Quandra, make sure she's still cool with me coming on and hanging out at her show. I know she'd have had me like 2 weeks in a row, and I'm like, am I butting in? Am I butting in, or did she want me here? Because sometimes, because I don't really do social cues well sometimes, so I don't like. Do you want me here? Or I'm sorry. I'm gonna text her and ask her that. I don't even think I need to have all of y'all involved in this. When you get an opportunity, make sure you take a look. You look up Tiffany Fisher, Tifani Fisher in Allegheny County. She is an amazing woman. Hopefully, we'll be able to get her on the show. And thank you to all of the members of the NAACP, particularly the Baltimore City branch and the Maryland State Assembly. Thank you for providing me an opportunity to really be around like-minded people who really give a damn about our community. I am so proud of the work that we've been able to do, and I am so excited about the work that we will continue to do. But no matter what challenges come our way, we will be Black tomorrow.